Doctors threaten to close hospitals over delayed pay rise. We have the story in our bulletin today. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Nahawa Kajura, and in the headlines, vaccines are valid, safe and effective. RNI party wins more seats in legislative election. And in our sports today, Gaddafi Football Club reinforce administrative department. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. We start with one of our top stories. Now, medical practitioners have vowed to shut down all hospitals throughout the country if government does not effect their salary increment, as recently directed by President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. Now, they have therefore issued a 1-month ultimatum to government to ensure that the salary changes are implemented, lest they withdraw their services. We have more on this report.
While appearing before Parliament's Health Committee yesterday, the president of the Uganda Medical Association, Dr. Richard Idro, said government has failed to recruit more medical practitioners to fill the gaps in the health sector that were worsened by the outbreak of coronavirus. Dr. Richard Idro also decried the tendency of the government to respond to their pleas shortly after they have staged strikes. The doctors also demanded that lawmakers compel government to ensure that private health training institutions are supervised, reasoning that majority admit more numbers that they can train and ably supervise. This, therefore, plows ground for substandard medical practitioners in the health sector. The medical fraternity also wants government to provide medical insurance to medical officers, since many provide services they hardly get. Dr. Idro said that in a space of 4 weeks, they lost a doctor and also lost 20 doctors in the second wave, and another one in Nakaseke Hospital, whereby they haven't received any compensation from government and have no health insurance. In response, the chairperson of the Health Committee, Dr. Charles Ayume, recommended that Parliament looks into the proposal to purchase cars for the medical consultants.
Well, thank you so much, our reporter Najuma. Now, moving on, in our top stories, the Finance Minister, Matia Kasaija, and his counterpart for sports, Hamson Obua, have clashed over what the latter described as a meager budget for the sports sector. This was after the Finance Minister advised the Sports Ministry to prioritize their sports activities. Take a look at the story.
Speaking during the 2022-2023 budget conference organized by the Ministry of Finance at Kolo Independence Grounds on Thursday, Minister Obua says it was appalling that in just 2 years, the sports budget has been cut by more than a half. The sports minister said this was wrong, since these ventures greatly benefit the country, and urged the finance minister to ensure funding for sports is increased. However, in response, the Minister for Finance, Matia Kasaija, insisted that there will be no increase in the sports budget, but urged the Sports Ministry to prioritize. The minister said the country's debt-to-GDP ratio has gone up, and this has ensured not many development partners are willing to lend to government, and in case it happens, the money has high interests. He insisted that there is need for prioritization of the various ministries to ensure sustainability of their sectors. Debt-to-GDP ratio is a measure that compares what a country owes and what it produces, and this ratio indicates a country's ability to pay back its debt.
Moving on, the Ministry of Health has today clarified on the shelf life of vaccines being administered in the country, saying that they are all valid, safe and effective. Now, this follows circulation of an AstraZeneca vaccine bottle on social media being termed as expired. We have more on this report.
In a statement issued by the Ministry of Health yesterday, 9th September 2021, the spokesperson for the Ministry of Health, Mr. Stephen Ainebiona, indicated that the ministry would like to clarify that the AstraZeneca vaccines that arrived in the country in August 2021 being administered are valid with a shelf life of up to 30 September 2021. The Sinovac vaccine have a shelf life of 24 months. The statement further indicates that all COVID vaccines have only 6 months between manufacturing and expiry and are all expected to be used before they expire, given the quantities supplied and the huge demands in the districts. The statement shows that the Ministry of Health through the National Drug Authority, has ensured that the vaccines and drugs imported into the country are safe and effective.
Well, thank you so much, your reporter. Let's go for a quick break. We shall come back with our international news. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right to know. In our international news today, Kenya's Chief Justice Martha Koome has admitted that corruption remains a menace in and out of the judiciary, terming it as a national embarrassment. Now, Ms. Koome told the media that she was concerned that the prosecution of cases involving corruption and embezzlement of public funds was taking too long. Take a look at the story.
Chief Justice Koome said trust in the judiciary had waned and she was focusing on giving Kenyans an institution they can have confidence in and one that is relevant to them. The judiciary has long been marred by claims of corruption. The second most senior judge, Philomena Mwilu, is on trial for alleged abuse of office and taking of bribes. She denies any wrongdoing. The 61-year-old was appointed in May by President Uhuru Kenyatta after coming top of 10 candidates interviewed in front of a live television audience by Kenya's Judicial Service Commission. She is the first woman to hold the position in Kenya. In the interview, she also referred to her village upbringing in a polygamous family as her mother's 8th child. She said that growing up in the village really brought out the best of her and was advised to study law after coming top of her class, and that's how she ended up studying law, and the rest is history.
Moving on in our international news today, Guinea's military junta has ordered banks to freeze all government-related accounts so as to secure state assets. Now the junta, which took over control last week, says the order affects institutional and individual accounts of the outgoing government. We have more.
While on the national broadcaster, a junta spokesman announced that banking freeze was aimed at securing state assets. He said that the freeze include public administrative and commercial establishments in all ministries and the presidency, presidential programs and projects, members of the outgoing government, as well as senior officials and administrators of state financial institutions. A mining boom propelled strong economic growth during Conde's decade in power, but surveys suggest Guineans thought corruption has increased in recent years, while dissatisfaction with the economy and living conditions has also risen. A delegation of West African leaders was due in Guinea on Friday to assess the situation following the coup that has raised fears of a backslide towards military rule in the region. Leaders from the 15-member Economic Community of West African States condemned the coup on Wednesday and called on the military to release Conde, who was arrested during the takeover. They also suspended Guinea's membership in ECOWAS, the region's main political and economic group, but fell short of threatening sanctions.
Well, thank you so much, our reporter Najuma. Now, Ethiopia said on Thursday that rebels from the war-hit Tigray had been routed from the neighboring region of Afar, a claim that rebels have disputed through their Twitter posts indicating that they have mopped down thousands of government forces by their own forces.
The office of Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed said the Tigray People's Liberation Front had suffered great losses and were forced to retreat from Afar 2 months after the rebels launched incursions into the region, the latest turn in a 10-month war. Tigray People's Liberation Front's claims of having withdrawn from the Afar region is not true, adding that the Afar militia has been working in close collaboration with the National Defense Forces, and the Tigray People's Liberation Front have sustained a lot of losses over the past weeks. Tigray People's Liberation Front spokesperson Getachew Reda disputed the claims in a series of Twitter posts, claiming that Abiy and company are trying to have their supporters believe that they are making advances in battlefields in Amhara and Afar, yet they are not, adding that thousands are being mopped down by their forces. But he made no mention of operations in Afar, instead highlighting fighting in 3 Amhara towns. The rebels had advanced into Afar and Amhara regions in early July and vowed to march into the capital after rejecting a ceasefire offer by Addis Ababa. In both areas, they have been accused of committing massacres and other war crimes. Northern Ethiopia has been racked by violence since last November. Fighting started after Tigray People's Liberation Front forces attacked a federal army base in Tigray, killing soldiers.
Now moving on, in Morocco, the leader of the National Rally of Independence Party declared the results of the legislative elections a victory of all Moroccans after his party won the most seats. With all of the votes counted, the Interior Minister said that RNI took 97 out of 395 seats in the lower house of Parliament. We have more on this report.
While speaking during a press briefing following Wednesday's polls, the Morocco Interior Minister Abdoulafi Laftit said that the Justice and Development Party, which headed the ruling coalition for a decade, saw its support collapse from 125 seats in the outgoing assembly to 12. RNI leader Aziz Akanouch lauded the results and said it was a victory for democracy, its spirit and its rules. His party has promised to create 1 million jobs to boost the economy after the pandemic, expand health insurance to all Moroccans, increase teacher salaries and provide a guaranteed pension for the elderly. Under the country's constitution, the king appoints the prime minister from the party which wins most seats, who will then proceed to form a government. Overall, the role of lawmakers is limited by the powers of King Mohammed VI, who oversees strategic decision-making in Morocco, an important ally of the West in efforts to fight extremism and stem migration from Africa to Europe. It remains unclear if the PJD will be part of the upcoming governmental coalition or move back into the opposition ranks for the first time in more than a decade. RNI's likely coalition partner, the Authenticity and Modernity Party, came in second with 82 seats, while the Istiqlal, an independent party, finished third, netting 78 seats.
Congratulations to the winning party. Now Africa Today takes a quick break. We shall come back with the business news. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right channel. In a business news today, the rioting that erupted in parts of South Africa in July over former President Jacob Zuma's imprisonment caused damage worth $1.7 billion, accounting to the state insurance company handling the claims. Take a look at the story.
More than 300 people died and more than 200 shopping centers were looted in the KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng provinces when rioters ransacked shops and stole groceries, liquor, electrical appliances and clothes, according to official figures. Factories and warehouses were also robbed and burned. The unrest damaged South Africa's economy, with freight trucks burned in KwaZulu-Natal, shutting key highways that used to ferry goods from Indian Ocean ports to the other parts of the country. Sasria, South Africa's government insurance company that covers special risks like public disorder, riots and terrorism, is now seeking funds from President Cyril Ramaphosa's government to cover all the claims from businesses and individuals who suffered damages during the riots. According to Sasria, South Africa's riots were among the most expensive in the world in the last 10 years, surpassing damages caused in riots in various US states over the killing of George Floyd in 2020, which cost an estimated $1.5 billion in damages. Sasria executives addressed the country's parliament on Wednesday and asked for a financial bailout from state coffers to cover the shortfall it will face in settling all claims.
Away from business, in Africa Today Health, the Ministry of Health top leadership headed by Minister Dr. Jane Ruth Aceng and her permanent secretary Dr. Diana Atwine yesterday launched the oral cholera vaccination campaign in the districts of Kasese and Ntoroko. We have more on this report.
Hundreds of thousands of people in at least 6 districts of Uganda will be immunized against cholera in the current phase of vaccination, according to Minister Aceng. The districts being considered in the third phase are Ntoroko, Busia, Namayingo, Kasese, Obong, and Madi Okolo. All people aged 1 and above in these hotspot districts are eligible for vaccination, which began on August 29th and will end on September 12th, 2021. Administered in 2 doses, the oral cholera vaccination drive is being undertaken with support from the World Health Organization, UNICEF, and Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance. For Kasese, the vaccination exercise is particularly vital in prevention of cholera since the district is prone to floods. At least 350,000 people in 6 sub-counties are expected to be immunized. Permanent Secretary Dr. Atwine, who participated in the Ntoroko district vaccination campaign, said the Ministry of Health and partners such as World Health Organization and Gavi are committed to ending cholera in prone districts like those hosting refugees. Caused by bacteria and spread through eating food contaminated by an infected person, cholera is an infection that affects the intestines, prompting watery diarrhea and vomiting, which are some of the symptoms.
Well, thank you so much, our reporter. Away from health, let's turn your attention to our sports news today. The newly promoted Uganda Premier League side Gaddafi Football Club has confirmed the appointment of 3 personalities on the management team. Now, Jacob Adua is the vice chairperson, Richard Chimera is the new head of marketing, and David Mwesigwa as the media officer. We have more on this report.
Unveiling of the trio was executed at the club's headquarters along Narambahi Road in Jinja City on 8th September 2021. For the starters, Chimera was the club chairperson during the regional and better parts of the Federation for Uganda Football Association Big League days. Mwesigwa dumps his communications duty at Usoga United to join the league newcomers, as Odur has previously worked with Eastern Region side Bugirida School. Edrin Ochieng, the club president, revealed that the reason for the appointment of these 3 officials was to see the club that has now gone to top flight football and need a top performing team of administrators to achieve their set goals. Gaddafi Football Club sportingly qualified for the top tier league when they beat Proline 1-0 during the finals of the promotional playoffs at the Fufa Technical Center in August. To this end, the club has now stepped up its preparations ahead of their first ever top flight competition expected to commence on 15th October 2021.
Well, thank you so much, our reporter. Now, before we end our bulletin, let's have a recap of our top stories. Vaccines are valid, safe and effective. RNI party wins more seats in legislative election. And in our sports today, Gaddafi Football Club reinforce administrative department. Thank you so much for being a loyal audience from where we started from. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We shall keep updating you. It is TV Africa, the right to know.